All right, I'd like to call this special meeting to order. It's a budget workshop on August 7th, 2025 at 12 p.m. Good afternoon, everyone. And it's great to have everyone here on this bright sunny day in August. And we'll go ahead and go to our next item, which is the citizens' comments on agenda items. No one signed up. So we'll go to budget workshop. And Cliff Heath is in charge of this item.
Let me walk, before Cliff kicks off, let me walk everyone through. There's some changes here, and I'm sure you and Tim probably won't see any changes because this is kind of your first time to sit as a trustee in your workshop. Given just evaluating where we were last year, so on and so forth, I have worked with Cliff, and we've provided what I think is a whole lot simpler way to look at school finance and school budgeting than some of the other stuff that I've seen over the years. School finance is something that I can talk 3 days about, but at the end of the day, what are the simple underlying fundamentals of this and how does it interact? And so we spent quite a bit of time. Cliff pushed out budgeting packets. Campuses, departments went through a needs-based budget. From that needs-based budget, they came into budgeting meetings, which was quite extensive. We spent a lot of time pouring through what the line item needs were in order to construct where we are today, all at the same time. As my grandpa would say, penny, cattle, and garden and gate at the same time, because you've got a new finance law. And so you're navigating through that, and you're trying to figure out a way to project revenue. And the Service Center, Region 12, has been great in working with the business department and Cliff in order to get an adequate projection with new law. And as I said at convocation, the fundamentals of that is this. You as a board had about $251,000 outside of the designated teacher retention allotment that you could have retention or allotment for the other staff. So that is a substantial, staggering, disproportionate inequality in funding. Teachers got a huge allotment, and the support staff for CCISD got a very nominal $251,000. Now, as far as local control goes, you have about $500,000 that you could do something with, including that allotment, okay? And so, since 2019, there's a lot of things that have been sucking the air out of the room, sucking the oxygen out of the room that money has to go to alleviate. So what you see there is two budgets side by side, the 24-25 budget and the 25-26 budget. And they're absolutely apples and oranges. There is really no comparison between them. Normally, when you have a finance bill, you can lay out and you can look across years at what happens in the budget. But because of the difference in the way that funding was allotted in different allotments, it makes it very difficult to make comparisons. But just before, and I'm wrapping it up, I promise, Cliff. Just before I turn it over to you, I would like to say this, is that at the end of this, I think that financially we'll be in a very good situation, but alarming too. The other thing is this, this budget is going to ebb and flow between now and the 28th, okay? And the reason, because those projections will ebb and flow. You don't know how many kids you got until you get them. And so everything is an educated guess, a projection, and on the 28th, we'll have a good idea of how many students that we're going to have. You can look historic, and if you look blindly at historic data alone, then you wind up in trouble. Good example is this, priority one closed. Okay? You can get all of those kids or you can get none of those kids. Okay? About 200 and some odd kids. My point is this, 200 kids, how much money is that? couple $1 million. So you could be zero or a couple $1 million on that one variable alone. But there's also 8,000 other variables out there because you don't know if a kid transfers, if a kid's coming back, if a kid's homeschooling. And so there's just a lot of variables to make that projection. That is a very good educated guesstimate of where we need to be to move forward. So that's on the estimate end, but, hearing your values, one of the first things we did was a staffing study, then we did a salary study, and if you look currently at where that budget is, and you add up all the salaries, currently we're sitting at 83% of the budget in salaries. That's an extremely high number, but that's where we are today, and it's relative to, it's reasonable. 83% is reasonable, but the other thing is this, it doesn't give you as a board a whole lot of things to play with because there's also other variables that are locked in like utilities and things like that. I say all that to say the good news is at the end of the day, the people sitting at this table, me included, have very little decisions to make. A whole lot of it is locked in for us. And so I just want to point that out and that I am proud of that 83% because I think that is a statement that we do put people first in the budget. You can talk about putting people first, but are you really putting people first? 83% is a very good number.
Dr. Hawkins, what is the insurance gonna do to us now that William Ledger's on the line?
It will go up.
A lot?
I mean,
Substantially,
yeah, it's a
It's
guess.
$1,092,000, which is a couple $100,000 more than it was the prior year.
The alarming thing on insurance and utilities isn't in this budget, it's in the next budget. Because that'll go up in the next budget, that's locked in. Transportation, gasoline, diesel is locked in on the contract, those things are locked in. Utilities are locked in until 2026, but we know that the utility budget's gonna double
Right.
at some point. So there's an additional $1 million that you gotta claw out of here some way to balance the budget. And so though, there are some bears down the road that we'll have to wrangle.
Thank you. As Dr. Hawkins mentioned, we've gone through this process that began back in May and submitting budget worksheets to the different campuses and departments. Once we got those figures back, I had individual meetings with those principals and department heads in my office. We input all that data into Skyward, and prior to this meeting, a couple weeks ago, we met with all the principals and departments again to see where we really could shave down some of our funds, make sure that we're using our funds in a way that meets the needs of our students, our campus, and our district. We'll admit, at times there was some gnashing of teeth when we asked some folks some more questions and tried to get the numbers that we can make fit within the budget. And so, much like Dr. Hawkins also said, a lot of these things are set by the state. We get a template in cooperation with Region 12 that really tells us what our local taxes are going to be, what our state funding is going to be, what our tax rate is going to be. You're going to see that during this next presentation. And so we're really locked in. Yes, sir.
So, but does the state direct how we spend state funds?
Locally, no.
To some degree they do.
But there's some grant funds that they.
Yeah.
Well, okay, yeah, grants, I got it, right?
Even within the state funds, there are mandates that are in there that you don't have discretion to spend.
The teacher
teacher
allotment,
allotment.
that's where a flow through for that. The state gives us additional funding, but that's flowing right through our employees.
Right, but of the 6,000 plus, how much of that is directed towards? So we have what, 6,650 allotment per student from the state?
No, that's the basic allotment.
Our regular
Each
ADA.
kid generates a different amount of money for a total of about 10,500.
Yeah, but just the basic allotment, because.
The
that's
basic allotment,
with or without services attached to those.
That's correct.
yeah, the 10.5 is the actual weighted allotment. That's the actual revenue that you're getting off each child. Some of them may be 30,000, and some of them may be 6,000. But yeah, there are some pots that have to be spent in some things.
Again, the weighted, right, grants. But the basic allotment, outside of this particular fiscal year, does the state direct how we spend that money?
Like I said, there are things that we have to spend it on, teacher retention allotment, support staff allotment. But outside of that, I don't believe that we do.
Okay. I don't believe, I mean, I know we won't. But outside of grants and weighted figures, we have a lot of discretion on how that money is spent.
Yeah, as long as you got 83% that you have discretion on too. I mean, you got decisions that you can make. You can be 40-1 on student-to-teacher ratio, and that frees up more money. So everything is about a choice in the budget. So you can.
Yeah, I got it. That's not like.
But that's how you would have to move that around, is what I'm saying.
And so, again, there's certain examples like the teacher retention and support staff allotment where the district is simply a flow through. TRS money, we do a flow through for that, which is approximately $4 million. But otherwise, we're trying to take care of our staff, make sure they're taken care of, and then also meet the other needs across the district. So, looking at revenues, 5,700 are local taxes, interest we collect from interest or our investment accounts, facility rentals, fines and fees that we collect in athletic revenue. And so, our taxes this year are going to be approximately, local taxes are going to approximately $13,844,000. When we add our local fees that we collect and whatnot, interest, that'll come out to $15,607,800. State revenues, again, are locked in by the state. That includes the allotments that we mentioned before. And then federal revenues, that includes impact aid and SHARS. SHARS program is continuing to reduce their funding year after year, and so we're not anticipating a number that's too significant, approximately $125,000. And then for impact aid, we're just budgeting $300,000. So all that being said, total revenues for 199 are going to come out to $88,314,766. So we look at our expenditures. I have this broken down by function, and within each function, each object code. So by salaries, contracted services, supplies, other expenses such as travels and fees, and then capital outlay. Capital outlay are items over $5,000 that are going to stay with us for a while. And so function 11, we're down where we were from last year. Again, we went through this salary study and made some decisions to reduce our staff. In the meantime, we also use those funds to provide raises in addition to the teacher and support staff allotment. So the number you see, $50 million, is slightly down from the year prior, but it still meets the needs that taking care of our staff this year. Function 12 is library and media. We had a reduction in salary. I believe we have fewer librarians on staff this year, so that's going to reduce that salary number.
Why do we have fewer librarians?
I don't know. I guess they're retiring, they're moving on.
And we're not filling them with full librarians, is that it? Or, I mean, there's gotta be a.
Or is library age in those positions?
The librarian profession is shrinking. There's
Right.
less and less people going into it because
Why,
they're all across the state, folks are transitioning to media specialists.
Okay.
And so there are positions that people are occupying, but they're not certified librarians.
Okay, that's okay.
Yeah,
As long
the
as they know what they're doing.
The service is still being delivered, but there's less and less of those people, and it's a product of the teacher incentive law. There's less and less people that want to be a librarian. There's less and less people that want to be an administrator
Or counselors too.
or counselors. And so you've got a byproduct. People are staying in the classroom where 5 years ago they weren't. They were going to some alternative career path, and now, they're staying in the classroom.
I'm seeing administrators going back into the classroom. I'm seeing coordinators going back into the classroom. And I'm seeing that in the last 2 years, so.
Teacher incentive allotment plays into that too. You know, there's an additional chunk of money that's supposed to earn, and makes it more lucrative than to be an assistant principal. or
Because some of those
counselor.
administrators hold mastery certifications or stuff that they can actually go back into the classroom and continue teaching for that incentive, yeah, so.
FAP, right?
Yeah.
So it's functionally meeting the objectives of the incentive allotment.
Right.
For retention.
Mhm.
Yeah, go figure, awesome, right? It's amazing what happens when you take care of folks.
Function 13 is our curriculum and staff development department. You see a slight reduction in salaries, a few small increases in contracted service and supplies. So you can see the total for function 13.
All right, now, and on the salaries, I've noticed in the other ones, there's a reduction in those. Is that because of the fewer people? Because we are increasing the pay.
Fewer kids.
Yeah,
Fewer
okay,
kids.
all right.
I was, Mike, I'm gonna follow up on that because you talked about salary at functional 11, right, instructional. When you're talking $2 million roughly reduction in salary, so, how many teachers is that?
30.
Okay, how many of those at the elementary level?
You have to look back. It's based on student-to-teacher ratios.
So what's the student-teacher ratio at the elementary level?
20.
21?
I thought we had this discussion, when we had the staffing study. You and I had a fairly decent discussion about student-teacher ratio. I'm concerned with our student-teacher ratio at the elementary level.
Aren't we locked into isn't there a state mandate? that says
22 to
you can
1
have no more?
is the
That's the max.
cap.
That's the max.
That's the
But
cap.
we're at 12 to 1 in some areas, and there were some with
Well, I
12
got
to 2. And so that's what we aligned our staff like other districts do. Otherwise, you run a deficit budget.
Had one for the last 2 years. The first year it didn't amount to a deficit budget. It's wait to be seen if this one's gonna amount to a deficit budget.
Yeah, impact aid plays a big role in that. Did 2 years ago, we got a little bit of money this year, not what we had gotten in years prior, but it did help offset that in years past. Any questions with regards to functions 13 or 21? Moving on to function 23, school leadership. You see about a $500,000 drop in salaries there, and a object code of 6,100. The other numbers stayed pretty consistent. And so total for function 13, $3,917,763. Function 31, we had a slight rise in increase in salaries, slight increase in supplies, everything else stayed pretty consistent. And so the total for function 31 is pretty consistent where it's been the prior year. Function 32 is our social work. That number overall down from where it was the prior year. Function 33 nursing. I believe we're adding a couple more nurses, which resulted in an increase in salaries. Contracted service increased. Supplies is consistent.
Yeah, I think the main thing is, like I said, you're making comparisons with a budget that's dead. And so you've got a budget over here that you're fixing to kick up in line, and when you say that we added, it's like right now, we've got 4 positions open. And so if you budgeted, to kick off the year, and you don't put those teachers in there, if you started this time last year and the budget was $791,000, and then you fill those positions, there's gonna be an ebb and flow of that. So it's very difficult with attrition to make comparisons across that, other than just take it for what it is, you know?
Function 34, we increased that a little bit. A lot of that has to do with how we are going to manage our fuel expenses for this school year. We're going to have one centralized fuel account as opposed to individual campuses and departments having their own fuel accounts. We consolidated that, and so that was a big reason why function 34 increased this year.
Will we have any additional buses that we'll be purchasing?
And it's in capital outlay. We doubled the funds there to
Okay.
purchase some additional buses next year. 2 new buses.
Two new buses, so one that was purchased last year, that was for $250,000. That was the one purchase.
No, that's-
From, I think it was Longhorn Services, right?
Yep.
This was a great big raise, 2000, but we also had the grant that helped.
That helped.
Oh, okay, that's,
So we've received those, all 6 buses, so they will be in fleet starting next year.
With that same thought, function 36, we also, all our athletic teams that travel, we moved a lot of the fuel costs out of that budget and moved it into transportation, so that's why you see that number there. Function 41, slightly up from the prior year.
Back to extracurricular, all right, you said the gas or the fuel costs out of it. What about the drivers? Where is that included in this? Do they have a driver for an athletic team or a band or what?
It's in the salary.
traveling on a
In the
weekend.
salary?
Salaries.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Oh,
Function 41 is our administration, business office. Most of our,
Let's go, we took fuel out of extracurriculars, but we're gonna keep salary for transportation. Why isn't salary being caught?
Salary and transportation.
Well, that's not what you.
Well, he asked where the people were being paid from. It's being paid out of transportation salary. So to be clear, the fuel supply money that was in the campus budgets is into transportation now.
So it's central, you centralize it, that
Yes.
makes sense. So any other place that uses fuel, it's not even in these next
Correct.
functions.
So that causes some up and down the budget.
Makes sense.
Except for the salary of
The drivers.
drivers.
But they've already been in there. That's not changed.
For that
You asked where
year.
the salary was. The salary is there, and that's where they've always been paid from.
Right.
Transportation.
It's the cost of fuel, gasoline, and diesel that has moved, not the cost of people.
So out of some of the functions, if there was, where the salaries for drivers have always been in transportation.
No,
And-
no.
Has it?
Oh, okay.
See, that was the question you were asking, Mike, I think.
I-
Where's all that salary? And that's the clarification. It's always come out of
Salaries
transportation.
come out of
And that was increased from 24 million to 25 million about, in function 34 there. That's a little bit of an increase, right, Cliff?
yes, sir.
Yeah, so. So it's all, everything, anything to do with transportation and driving is in the transportation function.
That's not what he just said. That's not at all what he just said, and that's why I'm asking.
Well, let me be real clear, okay?
That's what I'm hearing.
The money that a school bus driver was paid this year or 5 years ago was paid for out of the transportation center, okay? The supplies, 6,300, function 34, 6,300 has increased while extracurricular,
It went up a little bit too.
yeah, it should have went down, well, there's different
About 80 grand,
supplies.
about 80
Well, that's
grand.
not, I mean.
Yeah, I mean, so you can't see, you're looking at a function, and the gasoline is moved from one function to another. But their supply budget could have went up too, you know, and I'll just say like, they're buying some more things that they haven't bought in the past, you know, to get into cycles and stuff. The band uniforms are on the agenda for next week. You know, that's something that really needs to come out of your M&O budget in a cycle, rather than, you know, pulling money out of fund balance to buy uniforms. And so it's just kind of a different shift of the way of doing things.
I understand consolidating under the functional area. It's, you know, supplies, you know, fuel, et cetera, but the question is, why didn't we do that? All the salary for the bus drivers is under not all the salary. So the salary for the bus drivers under functional 3461, that is purely for day-to-day operations, regular day-to-day operations. And evidently there is bus driver's salary tied up on line number 61 under 36, functional under 36.
Line number 61.
Yeah, 61.
Salary.
On salary for 36.
The question is.
Those are coaching salaries. Those are sponsor salaries. Those are their salaries in 36 that is there for sponsors and stipends for coaches and sponsors.
But no bus driver salaries are in there.
There should not be.
Okay, I'll look at that. Yeah, I do believe that there's,
That's what I was asking.
Well, y'all, let me say it, but I mean, this is the third time, so if I'm not articulating it, then ask the question.
I got you.
Bus driver salaries,
Is in
transportation
34.
salaries should not be sitting in any other function other than transportation.
34.
I 100% agree.
Okay? And so the thing that has moved, to the best of my knowledge,
Gas.
is gasoline.
Diesel.
The cost of travel has moved to a, as Mr. Gallen said, a centralized method, because we feel like that it is more efficient. We're trying to make the district run more efficient, and we're not gonna do it this year. It's gonna take about 3 years to smooth everything out. But as you notice in, function 50, no. I'm trying to see where you put that. In function 34, and in function 51, there are vehicle purchases that are put in there. Dr. Shuck has put vehicle purchases in there. It is cheaper for us to buy vehicles for employee travel. And so that's another shifting in the budget that's happening to make us more efficient. That we buy school vehicles, we travel in the school vehicle, it's cheaper than paying employees mileage. We're trying to be more frugal and stretch that money. And so you're seeing some movement in the budget on those things too.
Are those athletic buses or Suburbans? Traveling Suburban?
They're vehicles, they're cars.
Cars.
Yeah,
Just-
so
Like
they're,
your
Sedans.
school car.
Sedans.
Suburbans, whatever, we have
Different
6
places.
Suburbans currently. 2 of those Suburbans are well over 150,000 miles.
Yeah.
So what we're trying to do is purchase some 4-passenger, because right now we're having staff that are traveling 2 or 3 people taking a Suburban, which doesn't get the best in fuel mileage. So we're gonna mix up the fleet by adding some 4-passenger vehicles.
Prius.
To be able to offset that expense. The reimbursement rate, as Cliff has shared with me, has continued to increase per mile. And so it costs us more money to pay someone to drive their vehicle than it would be to take the district vehicle.
Me. Yeah. Got it.
So you're riding with us next time, Tim. That's gotta be.
Tim's making money on this.
I don't know about,
I don't know about that.
he's enjoying his solitude.
Yeah, that's true.
Fortress of solitude.
And his truck's a gas hog too. It probably gets worse mileage than the Suburban.
Any other questions about function 36?
But also, just clarification, in function 36, that is also student travel for when they go to out-of-state trips. So you'll see some of that with CTE, because they have to budget money for out-of-state or state, and some of those things. So 36 isn't just fuel, but it's also hotel rooms for those extracurricular organizations. Lights, hotel rooms.
And that went down.
So, yeah, I kind of,
Meals.
that begs the question, you know, it's a $150,000 decrease. I mean, given our, you know, the pursuit of excellence and, you know, reinforcing success, considering our, specifically our softball, volleyball this last couple of years, I mean, I'd expect travel and fees, line 64 out of 36. I wouldn't expect any decrease in that, unless there was inefficiencies that were identified.
Those went through.
Say again?
Those went through.
Well,
Those.
Yeah.
are there gonna be less trips?
We are not in debt.
I don't anticipate
We're not
less trips.
No anticipating less trips. Yeah, I guess the question is, why did it decrease from 600,000 to 457,000?
To be honest, y'all, you're looking at budget versus encumbrances.
Oh, okay.
Well, I hear you.
Yeah.
I mean, because let me say for the crowd here, there was one human being that come to the budget meeting that was paused on their request. And how many meetings did we have, Cliff? 2 days of them.
Yeah.
Every 30 minutes.
14 meetings.
One person was paused on their request, and once the revenue becomes clear, then it's put back in here. And so the bottom line was, to the best of my, y'all can correct me if I'm wrong, was anybody denied anything that they asked for?
Yeah.
Anything in the needs-based budget, was anybody denied?
There was one, but
Well, it was paused, it was temporarily
yes,
denied. And then it was added back, so everybody that came, but I think that their request was all frugal too. I think that they had, looked at things and it was frugal, so yeah, no one was denied. So whoever built the needs from those sponsors and everything, it may just be a deal too, where I don't know how the 24, 25, 23, 24, 22, 23 budgets were made. Sometimes if they're historic, then if you spent, if I look down here and I spend, where was that, Jeff? It was 6,400?
Yeah.
$600,000. If that's what we've been spending, we've been putting in budgeting for the last 3 years, and we've been budgeting 600,000 in a historic budget. The type of budget that is you just put $600,000 down again.
Next year.
But this was a grassroots from the bottom. What is it that you need?
Mhm.
And estimate that, and then bring that need to the budget. And so, when you build it from the ground versus what we've done in the past, we might not have been encumbering, I don't have Skyward open, but we might not have been encumbering, but $450,000 too, so
Okay. So that 457,000 is the best guess with the meetings that was presented to you through somebody's analysis with those extracurricular clubs.
exactly.
Just like I said in the beginning.
we did try to build some consistency amongst travel when folks are going to conferences and whatnot.
Yes, we did build consistency in there, because,
Okay.
look, if we have a assistant principal at Fairview Jewel and an assistant principal at House Creek, then we ought to be budgeting about the same for the same conference that they're going to.
Yeah.
If they're going to TEPSA, then, and one is spending 2,000 and one's spending 1,000, something's wrong with that deal. So we tried to standardize the budget and say, this is where everybody's expectation is.
It's cheaper though versus sweet.
Also, Dr. Hawkins, if I may.
Yes, sir.
So cheerleading, in that 36 account also, cheerleading had the budget for buses for going to the different events. Dance team, Copperettes, same thing. Band, same thing. So that money that was in that 36 account for them to travel for those extracurricular purposes, that money was taken and moved into transportation because that's where it was.
Okay.
So
Huh.
when Dr. Hawkins talks about the efficiency, what they would have to do is they would have to then turn around and fill out a transportation request and then put in a PO, which would then trigger the business office to approve a PO, and it created a bunch of unnecessary steps. Now what they do is they send in a transportation request, and that's it.
Cool.
It doesn't hit the business office because it's already in their budget. Once they refuel, it's already there.
Yeah.
So it's taken 8 or 9 people of work to now just one person from the campus or the club to transportation, and that's it. There's no more hands or no more people involved in it. So we think it's gonna save
That's
time.
much better
That's
than
efficient.
what I used, yeah, that's much better than what I used to do. I had to do a transportation request, give it to my athletic coordinator, then they go to take transportation, then it goes to the business office, and, yeah.
That whole process is now cut.
Good.
It's a transportation request only, approved by the athletic director or that, and then there's nothing else. The business office doesn't have to be involved in it, except for when they have to get more fuel, we get more fuel, and then we put in the expense.
Good.
We did sign a fuel contract for this upcoming year, and we signed it early in the summer before all the craziness in the Middle East started happening, so we saved a good chunk of money there.
Good.
You know, we also talked to our staff about using district transportation as opposed to taking their personal vehicles, so, you know, we're trying to reduce the amount of per diem that we're paying out to our staff. And like Jimmy said, you know, we're trying to purchase smaller vehicles that our staff can take, so they're not using the big suburban for 1 or 2 people traveling, so, you know, those were some factors that went into those numbers going down as well. Any questions about function 41? Moving on to function 51, maintenance and custodial. Historically, that function has been underfunded, and we've run in the red for a couple of years in a row. And so, working with Jimmy and his staff, we increased that budget about $500,000 so that we're not running in the red at the end of each year. Function 52, any questions about function 51?
How often was it over budget in the last few years regarding 51?
I need to speak for the time I've been here. I know it's the last 2 years in a row, it has been underfunded. I don't know prior to that, but the last couple of years it's been underfunded.
The contracted services were less than what we've been. Does that mean that we've reduced some of the contracted services that
We're doing more of those things in-house.
In-house, okay.
Yes, sir. Function 52, security. Our police, our contract with City of Copper's Cove did increase from the prior year, so that's part of the increase there. Supplies, you know, we do have stipends and things that come out of that account.
How much are the SROs?
That's what I saw on the agenda.
They're I believe they went up about 338,000.
I can look that up.
I think it's on next week's agenda, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Yes.
A lot of supplies that we buy for security are custom fit to each officer, and so that adds an additional cost. You can't just go out and buy a generic body armor suit. It is custom fit to each one of our employees.
Are we still paying for the stuff for the CCPD, also their equipment stuff? So the city doesn't do
They've
any?
taken that out of that contract, so they don't charge us. All we're paying for is the salary and benefits,
Okay,
the use of the vehicle, their equipment, the city is eating that cost.
okay.
But we're discussing that too, Monday, right? Whole contract with our SROs, and whether we proceed or not, we're discussing that Monday.
Only, yeah.
Yeah,
so-
yeah, I'd like to on Monday.
Just want to make sure.
Any questions with regards to function 52? Function 53,
But I apologize. The increase from last year to this year, looks like it's $6,878. So the total is $182,991.
So once again, there, that's $338,000. But at the same time, with the contract services, it's been budgeted at $125,000. I don't know where that number come from. I mean, it was a budget last year. It doesn't, you know, you can budget, and you can under budget. And so,
Well, what populates just that number, like, what, yeah.
a human being put in there that, hey, that's what it was. And so it was probably historic of that's what was in there, and now it's different.
function 53, down a little bit where it had been from the prior year. But again, that's just based on our meetings and the needs of those staff members. Function 61, community services. I kept that number the same. I would need to do some digging to really find out what we use those funds for. Function 61, community services.
Yes,
So.
That's our impact to X-ray.
yes. That's what that was.
Okay. And then function 99 is our appraisal district contracts. That's with Coryell County and the appraisal district of Bell County. They had some slight increases, and so that came out to that number, 369,000. So overall, Fund 199, given our revenues and our expenditures, we're about $250 difference in the plus overall for 199. Moving on to 240, this is working with our child nutrition department, Melissa Bryan. Some of these numbers may change as we get more clear on our salaries for our child nutrition department. But we feel good about the numbers that we have there. So they'll break even this year as well. Any questions about 240, Fund 240?
Heard lots of good things about the providing meals for the kids this year for the lot of communities.
We're excited about that.
Yeah.
We really are.
Breakfast and lunch.
Yes. And then Fund 511 is our debt service. And, you know, you'll see in the proposed budget presentation, we make our last debt payment August 15th this month. And after that, the district will be debt-free. Pretty impressive.
It is.
Very impressive. Any questions about the proposed budget, anything else I can maybe get answers for? Nope. Okay, moving on to the proposed budget presentation. You have a hard copy in front of you. It's in black and white. It's cheaper to print that way as opposed to color. So our property taxes are broken into two different categories. M&O is our maintenance and operations, which is, you know, how we keep the lights on and keep the buses rolling day to day. And then INS is our interest in seeking, and that is to pay off bond debts. Again, from the state, they pretty much tell us what our tax rate is going to be. And so what we're proposing is 0.7575, which is a reduction from the prior year, 0.1953. We won't have any INS taxes added to that. The next slide shows the appraised and total taxable value of the properties, and again, this is a combination of Coryell and Bell counties. And so that's just looking at two reports, combining those numbers, to present that information to you. Looks as though like taxable value, market values are down just a little bit from the prior year. Any questions there? Moving on to property tax revenue. This is just a list of the top 10 taxing entities in Coryell County. HEB is number 4. I guess some of these other names are apartment complexes, property management companies in our area. Schedule with that. You see as year ending August 31st. We'll make our final bond payment on August 15th, and then for next year, we have none as of today. Questions, comments, concerns about the proposed tax rate?
No. But it sure is a lot easier than when I came on board.
Was it?
Oh, my goodness, we had to make all those decisions. I mean, I hate that we lost the control to do that. But, you know, we went up on a regular basis because we needed to. But, you know, we don't have any discretion anymore. They've taken it away from us, the state.
I think, you know, not everybody's adopted their tax rates as of right now. There are some districts out there with July 1 budgets, but as we get through August and school districts, you know, accept those, you know, I would suspect we probably have the lowest tax rate
Yeah.
of anybody within 50 miles of
I think so,
Coast,
too.
Texas, maybe farther than that.
Because of INS mainly, right?
A lot of it, yeah, yeah. Questions, comments, concerns?
All right. We have consideration and possible action to approve the proposed tax rate that Cliff just gave us for 2025, 2026. Any other comments or questions?
Yeah, I'm just concerned with, you know, this is our budget for, you know, this year, 25, 26, and I would have seen, or liked to see a more aggressive stance to take care of some of the needs that we've already identified. I'm also concerned with the fact that at the elementary school level, we've got a student-teacher ratio of 20 to 1 now. You know, those are my concerns.
You think 20 to 1 is too high?
I do.
I don't. But, I mean, personally, I don't. I think it's wonderful that we don't have, I mean, on a regular basis, we used to have 23, 24 kids. We had to,
30 to 1.
oh yeah, or, I mean, you can go back a few years, it was 35, 40 to 1.
Yeah, my
I mean, that was a different world that we lived in,
Yeah.
and I understand everything that, you know, goes into these decisions, but I think 20 to 1 is darn good myself. So I don't have a problem with 20 to 1.
I don't either.
Those teachers are competent, and I know that we have, like I said, I understand it's a different world.
Well, it's a guess. It may be 15 to 1.
Well, that's the question. Not every elementary classroom is gonna be 20 to 1.
But you don't know how many kids.
But that's the key. How many kids are we gonna get?
It may be
At that
30 to
level.
1.
And we may have to make some
I mean,
changes.
there's just very.
Well, I'd expect that at the high school level, if it's 28, 30,
Well,
33
yeah.
to
But
1.
in the past, there's been some decisions made, the state says 22 to 1, okay, right, basically? And we've had teachers at the elementary level go over that, but that has to be approved by the board
Yes.
to increase that, and usually it's really very much top-notch teachers. Not every teacher at the elementary level, if that's the case, that we have to adjust the classroom size, is gonna do that. It's gonna be a top teacher that knows how to handle more than 20 to 1 or 22 to 1 or whatever. And you're right, Tim, at the high school level, shoot, Mike will tell you, we had people, class with 40 in them at some point in time too.
Yeah, the discussion was elementary.
But it was something, yeah,
Yeah.
right. But elementary, that's gonna ebb and flow, I think, based on, as what Dr. Hawkins says, how many kids are we gonna get?
And we won't know that number until, you said, the
Till
end of the
when?
month?
28th.
Or after we
Well, yeah,
adopt?
I mean, kids are gonna come to school,
Yeah.
and after about the first 2 weeks, you start to see some consistency in the enrollment pattern. You really see consistency in the enrollment pattern after Labor Day.
Yeah, after September.
And so then you'll kind of know how many kids is gonna come to school, and you start turning your attention to ensuring that we're supporting them and ensuring that they do come to school through, whatever means that we gotta do that. Support, accountability, motivation, or whatever it may be. But those things drive your revenue. And if y'all want to set a student-to-teacher ratio at 12, 15, 20, 25, you're capable to do that as a board. But, we didn't designate any funds in fund balance to reoccur for that circling the drain expenditure. And districts across the state don't function with that business model. But you can set whatever business model you want to. If you set a 15 to 1 student-to-teacher ratio in January, then in February, we will start the process of hiring to meet that 15 to 1. But where we were, folks, there's nobody that does that, but you're welcome to do it.
Well, the
But you're
state,
spending money.
TEA and the legislature have determined, I don't remember how many years ago it was, that 22 to 1 is the optimum size. And I think that any teacher can handle 22 kids, at least I've seen that. And I've got a daughter-in-law right now that's teaching, and last year she had 25 and she did fine. She said 22, I can handle 22, I'm a competent teacher. And I think since the state has said that, then, if we have 20 to 1, that's a pretty good number.
I think the state set the maximum, right, it's 22 to 1.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah, 22 to 1.
Explain to me where it's optimum, right? I'll counter that as, that's your example, right? The FMIL, that's your example of FMIL. My aspect would be, okay, that's your FMIL example, then I'd like to, show me the challenges that she or she does not have, right?
She had plenty of challenges.
I'm gonna go back to, we had a discussion, you and I had a discussion about student-teacher ratio, specifically at the elementary level. We had the individual give us a staffing study. He talked about, he made his recommendations. I'm all about setting it, but my concern is 20 to 1. You're talking about 15 to 1, 12 to 1, that's not anywhere where we're at, right? I think
Well,
that's
in some classrooms it was.
It was, right, it was.
And for some grade levels it was.
No. Can't help at certain grade levels, right? But, can't help.
Well, yeah, we can set it and hold it to wherever that the deal is. But y'all have set nothing as a board, okay? There's no policy, no regulation, or anything like that been set that we have to operate with. And so if you wanna set that, then set that. Yeah, you can set it wherever you wanna set it. It will drive your budget. Like I say, 83% of this budget is in staffing. And so you can set that, just know that, you lock in your budget. But you do that in January, you don't do that in August. I mean, there's nobody gonna come. We got positions open now.
Well, I understand it's too late, right? But obviously there's been adjustments
Uh-huh,
that's been made since that staffing study,
uh-huh,
right?
yeah,
Because it's 20 to 1 now.
yeah. I don't think the superintendent has the authority to spin you into bankruptcy. I mean,
Oh, well,
and that's why I'm saying, you have to vote if you want it lower. Because my job is to balance the budget. It's financially irresponsible for me to keep bringing you deficit budgets. And I know you say, well, it's never a deficit. Well, that's true. But who in life operates off of a deficit budget? I can't, unless I'm approved to do so.
But we gotta-
Because who's gonna get the blame? Superintendent. Superintendent's gonna get the blame. Where all the money go?
Okay,
Well, that
so,
blame superintendent spent it, and the superintendent's response is, here was my directive from you as the board of trustees. If you want me to run a deficit budget, then you've got to put that in the constraints in which I operate with. And that's on the board agenda for this next meeting is discuss superintendent constraints. If that's a constraint that you want me to operate with, I kind of like, never was one, but I kind of like the Marine mantra, you know, you tell me to take the beachhead, and I'm gonna take the beachhead. But that's the clarity in which administrations need to run with. Otherwise, I keep bringing you deficit budgets, and when you have no more money, then
you made a comment about bankruptcy, spend some of the bankruptcy.
Yeah.
We're nowhere near that, right?
no, but if
And
we're
we,
gonna.
over the last decade, we've managed to accrue, right, accumulate a heck of a fund balance.
But you designated that money to be spent.
And it mainly, a lot of it came from impact aid that we were getting.
And so if that money's
A
spent,
lot of it.
then there's no parachute.
Millions,
Yes.
not a few hundred thousand.
300,000.
I'm gonna say,
Disagree.
Jeff said something to me about elementary school ratio. And I've got a ton of people that teach at the elementary level. And I talked to all of them, and they're all good with the 20-to-1 ratio. Every one of them was good with that. You know, I don't wanna have 25 kids, but 20-to-1 is great.
I visited with two of my former students who are now elementary teachers, and both of them are perfect with the 20, 22.
Well, if they show up and there's 18, there's 18. If they
That's
show
right.
up and there's 22, there's 22.
That's
It's
right.
just, we're talking in a lot of
Right.
theoreticals, because our enrollment is not consistent right now.
No, it's not.
If anything, it's declining. And so, you know, and then you throw in a priority charter, you don't know how many of those kids you get, you don't know how many of those kids you don't get. So there's a lot of unknowns right there.
That's right.
So you have to operate from the administrator standpoint, from some type of conservatism. And if not, then you seven have to direct where the line is. Because I'm not jumping off the creek, you know, and jumping off in the creek until, you know, you get an order to jump off in the creek. So.
And I want to keep giving raises. I mean, I think that.
Well, it goes, yeah, absolutely. We identified, last month, we identified a deficit that you provided us of our non-professional staff that we should be addressing. We know that there are certain capital expenditures that we could execute today to fix in this district, right? There's, you know, renovations, there's construction, additions, and none of it's on this budget.
Because you don't renovate out of M&O. You renovate out of fund balance and bonds and borrowed money.
But if it's not if that comes up in play, it's gonna be, you're gonna tell me that's not part of the budget, we're gonna have to approve it. I don't understand why
No.
non-M&O is not on the budget.
No one in the state, to my knowledge, budgets renovations out of M&O. Renovations are fund balance hits that you saved over time in order to buy capital needs, or you reach into a bond and the community votes and says, no, the standard in which our kids is currently going to school is not acceptable, and we want this renovation done, and they vote to raise the tax rate. But, we've identified things, and I think they're setting, and to my knowledge, where we talked about is they're setting over into assigned fund balance. And so those don't come through the M&O budget. Those are monies that are setting, that have been assigned. Does that make sense?
No, it doesn't. So I'll go back, I'll look at our last budgets, and what we approved for deficits and everything else, because I disagree with that.
You disagree with that's the way that schools operate?
No, I disagree with that, but we can't put our projected needs on this budget.
Oh,
Just because it is M&O funds, doesn't mean you've got multiple revenue streams here identified. All right, this is our
This
budget
is just
going
addressing
forward.
your M&O funds. You're only, when we've done this budget workshop, it is for the maintenance and operations of the district. It's not for capital outlay. That's why you have that INS function there.
Yeah.
That's the way it's done everywhere.
Oh, no more.
I don't, you can, I don't, I'm trying to figure out how to explain it differently, but that is, if you want to build an addition to this building, you wouldn't budget it in your M&O budget.
You separate them under a
Yes.
agenda, okay?
Yes, so you would put it on another agenda item, and in order to do construction, as you saw on the baseball, softball conversions, the first item on there is designate a construction method. And so there's general contractor, there's design build, there's construction manager at risk, there's construction manager aid. All those things are in the education code. And it is by law that you designate that method. And then from that method, then the administration brings you a quote based on that method, or if it is like construction manager at risk, then you have to employ a professional service that then brings you bids and you act on. And so that is a separate function of the board agenda in which you execute. You can still get there. This just isn't the door you go through.
Okay.
If that makes sense. This is just operating. I guess I'm trying to break it into analogies, and if we had a vehicle, this is the gas, the tires, the driver, the oil that goes into your vehicle. But if you want a new bumper, or if you want, to switch from a 4-barrel carburetor to fuel injection, then you would go to your savings account and pull that out and put that in.
Anything else on that item? I think it would be appropriate then to take a motion to approve the proposed tax rate for 2025, 2026,
Not so moved.
The maximum.
I'll second
the maximum.
Y'all, so now it's discussion.
Sure.
And so discussion is that that's the maximum tax rate. It can't go any higher, but it can go lower. And then you approve the tax rate on the 28th. Just for everybody's.
Right.
So this is.
Now, this is not approved, this is approved the maximum part.
Yes, sir. It's
Right.
just the maximum and then that'll run in the paper, notify the community, taxpayers. And then we'll come back and do a public hearing on the budget, and then consider the budget, and then consider the tax rate to support the budget.
We have a motion for the maximum proposed tax rate for 2025, 2026 by Mr. Wilburn. The second was Ms. Copeland? All those in favor, please say aye.
Do we have to do?
Yeah, we're gonna do it one at a time, just let me do it this way. Everyone, whoever's in favor of that, please say aye.
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 Okay, we'll go from here, if you'll just say aye or nay for this one.
Aye.
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 Aye. Okay, so that motion carries. Next, we have consideration and possible action to approve the bid for bank depository.
So the original contract was with National Bank in 2017. National Bank became Cadence Bank at some point thereafter. But we have to, and we've taken advantage of the opportunity to renew that contract in 2-year increments. In that last, I think you can do that 3 times. And the last time we were eligible to do that, it expires on August 31st of 2025. And so, I put an RFP package. There's lots of resources on TEA's website that I use, their templates and whatnot. We're required to mail that out to the 4 FDIC insured banks in Coppers Cove. And so I mailed those out at the end of June. The bid was posted, it was open June 25th. Those were to be submitted by the end of July. We had one bid come in from Cadence Bank, who's the company we currently bank with. In that bid, we have to list our activity to show the volume of activity that we do with the different banks. And Cadence Bank was the only one that sent in a bid to us. That costs us approximately $10,800 each year in banking fees. So long as we maintain a $3 million budget balance in our checking accounts, we accrue a little interest on that. And so, we have a great relationship with Cadence Bank. Helen Barr, the branch manager, I have her personal cell phone number. If we ever have any issues, I call her, email her, and she takes good care of us. But unfortunately, we don't have more bids to choose from, and so Cadence Bank is the bid that we received. I really think, based on the fees and whatnot that we pay them, it's almost, I don't know how much money they really make off of us.
So why do you think that we only have one bid?
Well, I only received one bid by the timeline.
That's what I mean, why do you think only one?
Sometimes it has to do with the regulatory folks make them have so much cash on hand, so that it, what was it, in 2018 or so along there, they redid a bunch of the banking regulations. Anyway, they have to have so much cash on hand, and in some degrees, and some banks sees it as a burden.
They don't
Because
mess
they
with
have to have that much cash on hand, and if you walk in, and the auditor walks in and says, show me this much money, they can show you. And so, it may be that some of the other banks around here are full of that type of,
customers.
of portfolio that's sitting out there. And so if that's true, they don't want to take on any more, and then some just don't want to fool with the whole regulatory audited part of that too, so.
Next question following that, what would we do if we did not have a bid?
You would go outside of the city limits
Okay.
to solicit that.
Okay.
Because there are some small districts in the state of Texas that may have one bank in their,
Mhm.
in their city limits,
Small
may not
bank.
have any, and so in that instance, they have the opportunity to extend their net, so to speak, of potential banks.
Okay.
All right. So, we have a chance to go ahead and take action to approve this bid for bank depository. Would anyone like to make a motion?
Make a motion.
Second.
We have a motion to accept the bid from Tim Traeger and a second by John Gallen. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. So we'll start with Tim and go around.
Aye.
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 Aye. This is something new that we have to do now because our wonderful legislators have too.
Yeah.
They're doing a lot of interesting things, so.
There
Anywho,
there
So we'll
are
call it interesting.
Yeah. that's a good word.
policies for draft that I have seen. Some of it, there's really nothing you can do about it, but please take a look at that. Questions, let me know. We will post the agenda for public tomorrow. We're still working on a few minor things to get it ready. But there's some things to grapple with that you as a board are gonna have to make some decisions on. Some of them are one sentence long.
So you send them to TEA or
Sir?
to our attorneys? You send them to TEA or our
Well,
attorneys?
I've got the rule-making stuff back from TEA to TASB, and then I've had attorneys look at ones that I know are up before September 1 to
Okay.
ensure that we're in compliance with that. But as I was saying, like, one of them is that we will begin meeting after the close of the business day on all meetings.
we will not be able to meet during the day for any kind of meeting.
I think there's an
You mean
exception.
this one?
Top two, huh?
Yes, the exception for emergency meetings.
Wow.
You know, if you have an emergency meeting and there's no timeline, but outside of that, all meetings will generally be done after 5
So
o'clock.
we're gonna have to make a decision on.
After 5?
workshop.
Really?
Wow.
So, but there's a bunch of good stuff that you can
Yeah.
enjoy along
Go back to-
the reading.
Go back to 3 a.m.
That means legislature can't meet till after 5 also?
No, they meet.
That's why
Yeah, they,
I'm just saying that.
No,
gonna flip the state.
Wow.
rules for thee, but not me.
Right.
Yeah.
All right.
Man.
So, with that said, we'll adjourn our meeting at,
Right.
oh, I'm sorry.
I wanted to clarify, when
Yeah.
I calculated student to teacher ratios at pre-K through 4, I calculated based off of a 22-to-1 ratio, and then at 5 to 12 was a 25-to-1 ratio. I
But
wanted
that's-
to have-
that's on a sporadic model too.
Correct.
Yeah, there was like 4 different models
And
that you
so,
could choose from.
that's what was utilized in that, so I want you to have, good numbers on what I used to calculate. And so, if the board makes a decision to go with something else, then that will be based off of that.
Okay, thank you.
I apologize.
And I'm not sure if I said it, Monica, but the last motion did carry. Okay, all right. We will go ahead and adjourn our meeting at 1:12 p.m. Y'all have a good day. That's great.
So Monday, our workshop's for a good time.
Yes.
Yes, through the month of August.
You're going-